Hey there, Film Buds. Welcome back to the Film Buds podcast. I'm your host, Paul.
And I'm Lauren.
And we're back after a little bit of a delay. We were on a little bit of a vacation this week. We were actually visiting the in-laws, your parents, which was great. It was nice to get away for a little while and get off work.
Yes. Gosh, time away from work is always nice.
Yeah, and it was great to see that side of the family. You know, they're a state away, and so we don't see them, all that routinely, and so it's always good to go and visit them.
Yes. I mean, obviously not as routinely as your folks.
Yeah. Well, and it was also a little bit of our Christmas trip. 'Tis the season. So this week, for Film Buds, we decided to change things up a little bit from doing our for-year consideration sort of campaign. And instead we decided to do James Cameron's recently released Avatar, The Way of Water.
Yes.
I guess before we get too far into the discussion on the film, we reviewed the film itself earlier this year. You can go and listen to the review of that. We did that one with Nick.
Yes.
The same episode that we did Fern Gully.
Yes, the original Avatar.
Yeah. So we did the first movie earlier this year, and since the new one was out, it felt natural to go and do the new one. But we also saw the re-release, of course, of the first one.
Yes,
in theaters as well.
Great time.
So I guess going into it, what were some of your expectations, before we start talking about the movie too much? Did you have any expectations for it? Were you excited for the film?
I guess I really didn't know how we were going to get to the Way of Water. I guess it felt like we were almost doing an Avatar, the Last Airbender kind of thing.
Yeah.
We were like, we
Last season we did the Air Tribe, and now we're doing the Water Tribe.
Exactly. And so I was like, I don't really know what that has to do with anything, or how we're bringing back, these characters again in this new way after so much time has passed, And so I was curious about where they were going with it. I really had no idea, to be completely frank, because you know me, I'm not really like a spoilers of my own accord person. Like, I don't go searching for things. I don't look things up. So, I really just had that very vague trailer to go off of. And that was pretty much it. So, I don't know. I felt like, I guess, I was less excited about this than the average viewer was going into it.
Do you know why?
I don't know, and maybe just because of the hype. I was all tuckered out of the just buzz for
the years of waiting kind of thing.
Yeah, and everybody, everybody loves Avatar, and maybe that's the reason why I was like, oh gosh, here we go again, guys. Another reason to jack off James Cameron, and I just don't know if I've got the energy.
Egomaniac James Cameron.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like, his movies are great, but it was just, it was such a touchstone for a generation that, like, I was like, I don't know if I've got it in me for another one of these guys, and maybe I guess I was just, how can you top the thing that shook the world?
No, I certainly understand that. And I mean, to your point, it's kind of that Lana Wachowski talked about, after Matrix, and the announcement of another Matrix movie, it's like, how are you going to top the last one? And it's like, how am I going to top being like one of the most groundbreaking sci-fi movies ever?
Yeah, exactly. That's a lot of pressure.
And
can you really do it?
And to a certain degree, I'm really not sure that James Cameron, well, we'll get into that. I'm not sure that he's necessarily, to a degree, ever trying to top his last movie, I think he's always trying to top himself.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I think that he's always trying to find ways to push himself. Not dissimilar to a degree to like a Tom Cruise type. Honestly, I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that Tom Cruise's next chapter could be directing. And pushing for the more and more, insane shot, or this more grandiose vision. Because I think that it could be a similar sort of adrenaline rush for him.
No, yeah, but I think that that's also why he hasn't done it yet, is because at the end of the day, until he is physically maimed in a way that he can't do stunts ever again, nobody will ever allow him to do that. He's paralyzed from the waist down or something. I think that we're going to still see Tom, try and physically top himself every time. It's almost like this, even though I'm aging, I'm only getting, better, like a fine wine,
Yeah.
I'm going to greater lengths than I've ever gone, than I could have ever thought I could have gone in my 20s, kind of thing. This search for almost like anti-aging.
Mm-hmm.
The fountain of youth.
Yeah, I see that. And I think that Cameron, is constantly trying to do that and to push technology. I think that that's his drive, right? Is this constant one-upsmanship of himself. Which I think is a really unique way to go about like a filmmaking process.
Well, I mean, you talked about technology, the fact that he is so smart, and then he's been creating science fiction movies for generations, and I guess even though Titanic is not science fiction, at a certain point it's science fact. It's how exactly the Titanic sank to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
In a very technical sense of what is the math and science behind this whole event, and how can I portray this on film?
Yeah, how do I sink one of the biggest, single ship disasters ever put, in the history books? How do I go and put that on film?
Yeah.
How do I capture a boat of that scale? How do I break it? Because I can't do a miniature. It's still going to be enormous as well, for me to go and try and create a tank by which I could do that. It's going to be gargantuan.
And honestly, this kind of like restraint that he has to wait for not only the physical technology to advance to where he needs it to, but also the this theoretical science as well that he'll put into his movies, to also make it feel more grounded in a reality that we can understand. These machines operate in ways that we can comprehend, so therefore they are real. This is real physics. They're all conceivable.
Yeah.
And I think that's also what helps with a lot of his groundbreaking filmography as well, is the fact that it is living in this realm of heightened reality.
Yeah. I think the only time that James Cameron you could make the argument that he's ever really gone competitively against like another filmmaker, you could maybe make the argument that he did so with Aliens, where he intentionally set out to up what Ridley did with Alien. And he to a degree he ate his lunch.
Well, I mean, they can't all be winners,
No.
But also that's what happens, when he's not doing something that is his baby kind of thing, something that he's had his hands on from the beginning. He's doing a sequel. Mm-hmm. I don't think that there are any other sequels that James Cameron has done that aren't, I guess, his own.
Yeah, not that I can really recall. Yeah, because, he did Terminator and T2. Mm-hmm. No, and he doesn't really have a lot of sequels in there other than, now Avatar.
Would you equate James Cameron as a director to almost like a Tolkien? This person who has all of the cards to the story already laid out in their brain and is just having to find a way of telling the story through their chosen medium.
That's interesting. Let's get there.
Okay.
So Avatar: The Way of Water came out this Friday. That is December the 16th. It's out in theaters right now. You can go and watch it. It's not going to be on streaming for a while because I'm sure James also has a contractual obligation to a certain theatrical window.
I mean, honestly, as you should.
Yeah. Especially nowadays. And so it is, of course, written and directed by James Cameron. Its returning stars for a lot of this, of course. It stars Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, Stephen Lang, Sigourney Weaver, and then in our new cast we have Kate Winslet, we have Cliff Curtis, we've got Edie Falco, and in our young cast we've got Jamie Flatters, Britton Dalton, Trinity Jolie Bliss, Jack Champion, and Bailey Bass. And our premise is Jake Sully lives with his newfound family formed on the extrasolar moon Pandora. Once a familiar threat returns to finish what was previously started, Jake must work with Neytiri and the army of the Na'vi race to protect their home. Seems like a real... I mean, that is the plot, but also what an oversimplification. So,
well, I mean, it's 3 hours long. They had to give you the elevator pitch.
The bare bones, yeah. So I guess I'll go ahead and kick things off. Let me start with answering the question where we left.
Yes.
I think that he has absolutely fallen in love with the world of Pandora and for the foreseeable future doesn't want to stop telling the story that he does have in his head there. And I do think that you were right. I think that this is a story that he has been forming for a very, very long time. The first one was definitely that way, and that's part of the reason that the second one took so long, was that he was really ironing out the story. You know, I think the first one was definitely there. I think everything after that was a much looser framework, but was there. And I think that he fell in love with Pandora and loves telling stories there. And I think that's totally fine, you know. I think that there are some people who are like, I wish that he would stop doing them and do something else, you know, or whatever. But, like, to a certain degree also, you know, just speaking as a creative, I understand that perspective of, like, Avatar isn't my bag. I think that you're a great filmmaker. Please do something else. I understand that perspective. But also speaking as, like, you know, just a creative of my own, I also understand the idea that, like, a place could become so intoxicating as a writer that you only want to tell stories there for a little while. You know, King went and obviously did other stories, but he also did the Dark Tower books, you know, which were focusing on a very particular set of characters throughout a protracted thing that also tied his universe into one big gargantuan thing. So, you know, I think that it's really hard to look at a creator and go, don't go and play in this great world that you've created in your head. That being said, we can critique the stories that are being told in that world. So, what did I think of Avatar: The Way of Water? I thought that it was fantastic. You know, I mean, that's one of the things about James Cameron. Like, he does do big, epic, sweeping storytelling in a very, very particular way that not many people do anymore. You know, he takes his time, that's for certain. But I think he also knows how to, like, take 3 hours and make it go by in a breeze. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say that the movie felt its runtime. You know, it was a pretty dynamic, moving movie. And you could tell your act breaks, you know, very much as you moved through the picture. And I think that on top of that, one of the things that I respect the most about the movie is that we did build on character arcs and growth. You know, we didn't backtrack, we didn't go back and handhold and go, do you remember the plot of the first one? we didn't take our characters back and break up Jake and Neytiri, you know, and he's got to win her back again.
Yeah.
He truly did what a sequel should be doing, which is pick up your characters and move them forward. You know, continue to grow and move these people. And I think that he did a really good job of that. I think that he made characters make choices that were ultimately incredibly natural, and therefore also, you know, at times frustrating, and things that you as an audience member could understand but disagree with.
Yeah.
Because they were ultimately people making decisions. And I think that he did a really, really good job of capturing that. And on top of that, I think that he did find a way to continue to make Pandora, you know, magical. And obviously, I think one of the benefits of that is going to the world of water and allowing us to rediscover just as much of the diverse biosphere, you know, that is present underwater as is present, you know, above.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's where I'll leave it for right now. What did you think of Avatar, The Way of Water?
I completely agree with everything that you just said. I thought that you know, coming into this movie is a little bit of a skeptic of, you know, you can't possibly, you know, make it any better, guy. You know, you're going to hit your limit and you're going to start to just, you know, put Star Wars out into the universe.
Yeah, we're going to get Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, we're just going to get nonsense. It's money. It's for the money. It's bait. It's bait for the audience. It's bait for the fans.
We're going to get a Jar Jar character at some point.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it's going to be racist. And people are going to laugh at it, and we're all going to go, ew, in 10 years. But no, it was none of these things, you know.
He's going to get James Corden doing a Jamaican accent.
Oh yeah, right. I think that God, I heard it in my brain, and it was just a terrible idea. Oh my gosh. I thought that this movie was truly breathtaking, not only in its visuals, but also in its story. I really just fell right back in love, you know, with this couple, with this point in their lives that they're at, you know. Now they are parents. You know, we didn't go, oh, it's been, you know, X amount of time in the real world, but it's only been a few years on Pandora. You know, nothing's really advanced. No, we truly go, all right, it's been like 20 years, guys. What's it like back on Pandora again, you know? Or however long it's been. When did the first one come out?
The first one came out back in like 2011.
Okay, so it's been 11 years, you know, but we've advanced
2010, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but we've advanced time.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's got a son that his eldest child at the youngest is probably 15.
I would say, yeah. Because, you know, he's having these trials of manhood, you know, put upon him.
Exactly.
He's being taken more seriously.
The coming of age stuff.
Exactly.
And he's having to be, you know, a young soldier in wartime.
Exactly. And I think that, you know, we've got these parents who are just trying to keep their family safe, and but are also, you know, the leaders of the clan as we've left them, you know, from the previous film. But then also trying to figure out, you know, now that the danger has returned to Pandora, what are these choices that I have to make? You know, do I stand and fight for my clan, or do I fight for my family? You know, these two different mindsets.
Yeah.
And Jake is struggling with that. Because he's also has this, you know, this unspoken burden of fatherhood put on him. You know, and I think that's really interesting dynamics.
Fatherhood and chiefhood.
Yeah. And then we've also got, you know, the battles of Neytiri, you know, battling, you know, her tribal alliance, you know, her family, you know, in the sense that, like, this is her kin, but then also motherhood. Mm-hmm. You know, and being a partner to Jake, and what that means, you know, and it's just it's truly a lovely story, and like I don't doubt in the slightest that this is a true family unit, that these people 100% did live the little flashes of their life that we see until we get to this point in the future. I believe every bit of this. I believe the dynamics of this, all four of their children and their different struggles that they're facing in this new world of Pandora with these new enemies. I think that my only issue with this film is the format in which it was filmed.
Or at least presented, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that James Cameron, for the most part, I think that he knows what he's doing. I think that this movie looks spectacular. I think that Pandora is
it's never looked realer.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the water looks I loved rediscovering, like you said, Pandora, but through this different world, this completely different culture of Na'vi, and how they've evolved through time to be these people and why, they are so best suited for the water. I loved the differences between these two clans from the Na'vi that we remember from, our forest Na'vi that we had from the original film.
And I mean, he truly breached that divide. There were truly shots where if I didn't know, and I don't even necessarily feel this way about the first movie, which I think looks incredible, there were truly shots in this movie where I went, if I didn't know that this shit weren't real, I would believe that I was looking at something physical. I would believe that I was looking at something real. One of the sea creatures that the little Sigourney Weaver child looks at, for me, looked so incredibly photoreal. The shot of Jake tying his hand to the saddle, incredibly photoreal in the big screen.
Well, I loved breaking apart all of the different facets of life that these people have, the how they hunt, how they survive in this environment, what that means for their shelter, or their food supply, or how they interact with their environment. What creatures do we have here that are similar to the creatures that we are used to but are different and are specifically evolved for this area. I loved when they were that chase scene where they're going through like the kelp basically, and they end up in these like air pockets that are like underwater. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was so cool. These almost like upside down fly traps is what they looked like. With pockets of air, so that way they could catch their breath but still manage to stay active in this scene. All of this problem solving that he's done for the world is truly breathtaking, because you get lost, you forget that it's not real because it's so well thought out.
Well, and much like I saw someone on Twitter once say that like Paul Verhoeven and like Starship Troopers is great because he understands how, like, horrifying the military-industrial complex is, but also how, like, inherently bitchin' some of that shit looks on film. The
intoxicating nature of it and why we keep doing it,
And also, I think that to a certain degree, like, James Cameron lives in that similar place of, like, he knows how to make cool-looking technology. He knows how to make cool looking aliens, and he knows how to put together these big grand set pieces. And to a certain degree, is it not really, no offense, is it too dissimilar from the final set piece of the first Avatar movie? No, to a degree. We've got a big singular ship with a lot of other small vessels that are attacking creatures in the sea, that are swarming and attacking, and eventually the final confrontation, in the first Avatar movie, the final confrontation takes place off of the big ship. But ultimately the big ship crashes, and it ends up being a final, but it ends in a different way. It ends actually not in the big final moment of violence. It ends in a moment of a square off, in this question of how far are you willing to go for your cause.
Well, yeah, and also I think that the tactics that the humans use, because they are, I think that
they're set in their ways.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the similarities, regardless of how advanced they become, they still are using the same exact tactics. We've got, the one big ship that holds a lot of little ships, that are using all of their tactics to try and pick off people one at a time, while the big one can do what it needs to do, which is like the money shot, pretty much.
However, this one, also I think is definitely a little bit more protracted of a sequence. Like, James Cameron really devotes the final third to, like...
Well, we also have more players involved.
Yeah.
We've got more storylines to keep up with, and, remember where such and such is at this time, and go over here, and progress these characters one at a time. It's almost like Rogue One in the sense where we've got, all of these people in all of these different places still going towards, one final goal.
Mm-hmm.
Which is basically complete the plan and get home alive.
Well, and speaking on that, the structure of the film is great, because Act 1 is essentially establish where our characters are now, our good guys. Mm-hmm. Reintroduce our bad guys. And by the way, the reintroduction of the bad guys is one of the most insane cinematic moments ever. I mean, it's right up there, kind of honestly, with, for me, it is kind of up there with, like, the destruction of Fangorn, for the creation of the Uruk-hai in Fellowship of the Ring.
Mm-hmm.
You get this incredible moment of just hellfire, and this mechanized army, that is faceless and in the hundreds now. Mm-hmm. And it's insane. It's such an impactful and powerful moment. And then we move forward with reintroducing our villains. Which, by the way, I think that this movie actually it was perhaps a, at times, less fun performance, but I think that this movie actually gave Stephen Lang a better character to work with his Miles Quaritch that has been reborn, than his Miles Quaritch that was a human.
Well, I think
his Miles Quaritch was a little one note.
Well, I think that's the whole point. I think that, with every generation...
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of it being like a literal or metaphorical generation, we are getting more advanced.
Yeah.
Where that's why he has more conflict in his morale, in what he wants out of this, in his humanity. He's become more human in this form than he ever was before. And he's still not great.
Yeah. He's still not fully formed.
And so it is this next generation, maybe a generation after that, we will come closer again to it. But it's all about access and education, and at the end of the day, understanding. He couldn't possibly understand what it was like to not be until he was, born it.
Yeah.
And still, he was outsider to it. And it's now conflicted between his personal identity.
Yeah. Also, interestingly, we were talking earlier about this being a penultimate moment for his career, and how it ties into the other movies that he's made. To a certain degree, the army going and actively creating avatars of the soldiers and using them as like infiltrator units is really a resurrection of his ideas from Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of put the killer bots in flesh suits.
Mm-hmm.
So that way when you first see them, you've got no way of knowing.
Yeah. I really liked the structure of this film. It was kind of like it was a dismantling of the familiar almost, with our war that is continued on, to this new world exploration. We get to have our Pandora new love moment. All of these kids get to be kids again for a little bit.
Yeah, because Act 2 then gets to go and be essentially kind of like a recreation of Jake Sully's introduction.
And yes. But then
with his son.
Exactly, but instead of it being this man from another world in a literal sense, in this body that he doesn't belong in, it's this kid who's just from a different town, pretty much.
Yeah, having to come and learn the customs of people that, are like him. They are Na'vi, but they live completely differently than he does. And so it's the culture shock.
Yeah, and they also have their own prejudices because of that. Because, at the end of the day, this is also about, this is a race story as well, Can you truly be accepted into this new culture? You are not from here. You do not look like me. How can I trust that you will respect me and my ways? Yeah. In the same sense, and I think that's where Jake is finding a lot of strength in this movie, because he has also lived this before, whereas all of these Natiri and her children are experiencing this all for the first time and are each having their own issues with transitioning.
Interestingly, though, I think that this brings us into maybe one of my biggest critiques of Cameron as a filmmaker in respect to the Avatar franchise, which is that he is telling these stories about race, but then casting in ways that are very white. There's no reason for Kate Winslet to be cast as one of the Avatar, or one of the Na'vi people. And I think that, like, one of the mistakes of the first Avatar film, honestly, is that Jake Sully is white. I think it's one of the big sort of missteps of the first film.
Do you think that it would have the idea of him being like, I didn't belong with those people, because I was always going to be outcast of the group, would be made stronger if he had been like a person of color?
Potentially, and I also don't think that it would have felt it obviously would have solved a lot of our literal white savior issue. Some of that complex of the Jake character instinctively.
Well, that's totally fair, but I think that Hollywood is still having a hard time getting out of that mindset of the white savior, the magical black person, and the Kung Fu Asian.
Yeah, all those tropes, yeah.
It's baked into our DNA, even when we get a new version of it, which is, a little bit more progressive and a little better. It's still living exactly where we expect it to be. Just look at Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's a fantastic movie, but at the end of the day, it's still an Asian family centered around, like, a Kung Fu battle.
Fair.
No,
I understand where you're coming from with that.
But I do think that...
and so I think that ultimately there's a real issue for James Cameron with choosing... And, like, I understand that you made Jake Sully white, and so now we're dealing with that. Do I think that it was good then that you made some of the people that played his children white? I don't know. I think that that's a little bit more of a toss-up for me.
Or they're, like, ethnically ambiguous or something,
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that you're totally fair. I think that because the new Na'vi, the water tribe people of the Na'vi that we are introduced to, they are obviously supposed to be Pacific Islander.
Mm-hmm.
Of that, cultural region,
mm-hmm.
And it is, to your point, very strange to then have it be Kate Winslet as
doing an accent.
Exactly. Yeah.
If I was to make this live action,
because then do not literally base them off of a cultural identity. Then make something up entirely new, and I think that's one of the problems, honestly, with Pandora and the entire concept is that it is filtered through a human lens.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of the animals look like animals that we are familiar with. Even the Na'vi look like things that we are familiar with. They are humanoid cat people. Yeah. Pretty much. They're like lions. That's what they're shaped like. They're pride. But then we go to this new...
With a chief who literally wears, you literally said lions, a pride. The chief literally wears that huge frilled collar that almost looks like a mane.
And the mom is the witch doctor.
And they pulled a Lion King in this one.
Oh yeah, when he holds up the baby.
Yeah, they straight pulled a Lion King.
Yeah, I mean, they're shaped like lions. They've got the flat noses like lions, and the tails is what really caught me, you know, because they're very cat-like, but they're very specific cats, because lions are the only ones that have, like, the tough of fur, coarse hair, like, right at the end, almost like an elephant. You know?
Because it is kind of meant to be like a pseudo fly swatter.
Exactly. Yeah, for the harsher environment. Whereas these people are based more along fish attributes, where they've got more, you know, angled bodies for making swimming easier, and they've got more of like a
flat paddle tail.
Exactly.
Like a beaver or something.
Yeah,
like
I think that they're more supposed to be like otters. And that's also would explain why their faces are very flat and wider set. Kind of like otters. But they are very, very, very specifically leaning on, like, the Na'vi are supposed to be African.
Yeah.
You know, these people are supposed to be Pacific Islanders.
Yeah.
So it's just, again, I feel like I think that he did better in the last one with, like, actually casting black people to play.
Whereas this one, he was kind of like, eh.
Exactly. It's like, what the hell, James?
Yeah.
You know, I get it, and I think that she does a phenomenal job, and you forget that she's there. But also, it's the principle of the thing at this point. You know, if we're gonna go down this line of being specific,
if you wouldn't do it in live action, if you wouldn't go and essentially put her in some sort of makeup,
yeah, how is
wig.
this any different than basically doing almost like a blackface?
At this point, you know, to take it to, I guess, the most extremified version of the argument, then at this point, Leo could play, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. Because I could just go and slap Martin over top of him.
Yeah, and CG.
And what's the difference?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same argument as what happened, you know, earlier in what was it, 2020 with the whole Big Mouth incident. You know, and Jenny Slate.
Yes, I believe it was.
Ended up getting recasted because she was...
And Kristen
Bell
ended
as well.
up leaving a role. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, this is exactly the same thing, and I understand that these are not real people and real cultures, but they are based in things that are familiar, and he is tying very specifically into these things, and because he does, you know, lean into realism and how these people would actually live on this environment, he is pulling from how people are living in their current environments as well, in these kinds of places. How they have evolved.
For sure.
So no, I am very on, because also, like, we don't have Jake Sully now in this one, like, putting on a Na'vi accent, even though he's been living years with them. I mean, he does have his white boy dreads.
But that's also just his hair and their culture to an extent, you know?
No,
he is just living in that world at that point.
Yeah.
And living in that body authentically,
But
however weird and awkward that whole storytelling is, you know.
But at the end of the day, he is, again, just being Jake.
Yeah, you know, when he speaks English, he's not going and doing some sort of weird accent
Exactly.
on top of that. He's speaking English.
Yeah, he's not putting on some performance to be like,
if anything, I thought that it was also weird how often other aliens were speaking English. I really wish that we heard Na'vi more. Oh, that's a good critique of the film, actually, for me. I really wish that we heard more people speaking Na'vi, because you went out of your way to make a whole language. I now have Na'vi and Na'vi being together, no humans around, and I know that Jake Sully isn't an original Na'vi or what have you, but I think that there were too many instances of people speaking English instead of Na'vi.
Okay. I like that. Well, I mean, they pulled it out of their hat as a you know, remember that throwaway line that he says at the very beginning of the movie that's like, you know, it took a while for it to get through my thick skull, but, you know, it comes to me just as easy as English.
And maybe that is like a throwaway thing, but then when you have them speaking specifically English at times, I think it gets too gray.
No, and that was where I was going to go next, is the fact that, like, that makes sense of when we are with the Na'vi people, you know, whatever culture we're at, we can hear them just speaking English. That is totally fine, you know, because we all understand that they're speaking their other language. But to your point, I think that it should have been, like, once we were actually around humans that weren't, like, norm.
Yeah.
You know, we should have been speaking the Na'vi
I heard
language.
more Na'vi in the first movie. Mm-hmm. And I needed more Na'vi in this one.
No. The only thing they brought in was scown.
No, they dropped that shit left, right. But I think that also confuses, to a degree, the whole they're not speaking English thing.
Yeah, but then they get away with just saying, you're so stupid all of the time, because now it's not as offensive.
Yeah. No, I get that.
You know, they're using this as their throwaway curse word.
Yeah. Like movies getting around MPAA using words in Spanish.
Exactly. That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
But to your point, no, I think that is also, like, something that really bugged me about this as well, because, like, I even understand his kids knowing English, because, like, he would want them to, just in case.
And I even then understand the one son speaking in English Sign Language, because his dad might have taught him, like, American Sign Language.
Well, for the other people?
No, for him and the whale.
Oh, I thought he was speaking there.
Oh, was he speaking the Na'vi fish sign language?
Yeah.
Oh.
That wasn't sign language.
Copy doppy.
No, I assumed that like time had passed, and to a certain degree, you know, we had our training montage.
We need a montage.
You know, so I assumed that he was speaking their version of the language, because they had all, again, transitioned to being, like, a part of the culture.
It's kind of his own, like, the son's story is kind of this really interesting story of the son, like, befriending Taruk Makto.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's sort of the same echo of that.
Mm-hmm.
This singular version of this animal that everyone else lives in peace with, the normal ones.
And in fear of this
but
one.
But this one is violent.
Mm-hmm. But it's because nobody ever actually, you know, knew the truth. They were just going on rumor.
Yeah. And greeted the animal on its terms, you know, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting movie, flawed filmmaker. I know that a lot of people from tribal nations on Twitter I have seen lately have rediscovered something that James Cameron said back in 2010, that they're not overly fond of, and are therefore not going to go and see Avatar: The Way of Water. He essentially said something to the effect of, like, if certain people, in particular the Lakota, had a mirror into the future and seen how their nation, you know, would essentially be a dead-end culture with high suicide rates, maybe they would have fought harder.
Oh! Well, James. My goodness. So that is... Oof.
And I'm paraphrasing a little bit.
No, yeah, I mean, I get the
But that's kind of the thrust of it.
Ooh, that's not great.
He doesn't necessarily say it that brusquely, I suppose, but that's kind of the heart of it.
Ooh, yeah. Well, you know, if that's the meat and potatoes of it, then, like, wow, James.
It's not great.
Doesn't sound it.
No.
Well, I don't know if that mindset has necessarily changed at all with the fact that, like, again, he made very specific choices when making this film.
Yeah, I think that there are ways in which James Cameron, as much as I do love what he does as a filmmaker, is a little bit set in some of his mindset and ways.
Mm-hmm. And do I think for the average viewer watching this film that they would know any of these things?
No matter or care, probably not.
No, and so for them, this is going to be an A+ slam dunk, the funk kind of film, you know? Because you're also not going into it with any of the knowledge that anything is wrong.
But it's worth putting out there
to
call to light a definitive part of the issue, because you look at how, like, Disney went out of their way to make the Moana cast Pacific Islander, across the board. You can go to that same level of care.
Yeah, yeah.
And especially when you're James Cameron and they're throwing money at you left, right, and center, you can go to that level of care.
Yeah. And I get it,
I mean, if you needed a name, not that... let me put a pin in something real quickly. Not that I am in love with this idea, but if you needed a name to sell tickets, The Rock would have been that chief. We didn't need to make it the Kate Winslet, part. We could have gone and thrown Dwayne into the chief role. I think he would have done great in the part. Kate Winslet is the chief's wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, if we needed a celebrity name in the cast...
No, but also we don't.
No, we don't.
Because we have Zoe. Zoe is our celebrity.
By the way, she did tremendous once again.
Oh, she's heartbreaking in this.
She is my favorite actor.
She is absolutely perfect in this film. None of the notes that I've given for this film are related to Zoe.
No, Zoe is the best part of the first movie, and guess what? Zoe is essentially the best part of the second movie as well.
Yeah, it's Zoe, and honestly, like, I really did enjoy the narrative of the children,
Yeah, and that's surprising. It's hard to get children's narratives right.
Yeah, but it's also because we've changed, like, how because it's a moving story also, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the story in Up where they move to San Francisco and everything is gross and I don't like it here and it's stupid.
Not Up.
No, Inside Out. That's the one that I'm thinking of. Yes. But no, yeah, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that they were all genuinely sweet. And I really enjoyed this family unit. And again, Zoe broke my heart, and Kix made your butt. Always.
No, for sure. But yeah, I think that, that is... There are definitely some things about James as a filmmaker and these films that are worth critiquing or are worth drawing to note. But also, I think that at the end of the day, he is still telling an epic story that is still relevant, that is still interesting, that is also still one of the funnest, most bombastic, and truly cinematic. Like, if you really want to remember what a cinematic experience is, go and see Avatar: The Way of Water.
Oh, for sure. Honestly. And again, I guess to go back to original point, I think that my only, like, major physical note of, like, this film as, like, a presentation, watching it for the first time, like, I think that I could have handled it in 3D if it hadn't been for the high frame rate. And that could be just a specific thing, and maybe on a smaller screen, the high frame rate won't freak me out as much. But it was just too much on too big of a scale, happening too quickly for, like, a good third of the film for me. It was making it hard to watch. And yeah, I think that, other than that, it's beautiful. Pandora looks great as always. She's your main bitch. She looks fantastic. Dressed to kill, as always.
And I understand why James Cameron wants to keep returning there. Like, I get it. And I understand why he wants to keep returning, especially to characters like Neytiri. She is maybe one of my favorite characters of a franchise, literally of the last 20 years.
Honestly, and she came back and she just nailed it.
She fell right back into the part, and she did. I think that she truly bleeds much of herself into Neytiri, and I think that's why she leaves it all on the dance floor, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that she's, as an actor, I think she is truly just a phenomenal force, and I've always been a fan of her work, and I've loved watching her ever, since the very first, since her in Center Stage, she's eye-catching. You can't look away from her. She steals every scene that she's in because she knows what she signed up for.
Yeah.
And you believe it 100%. She's
no,
committed.
Absolutely. So, if you had to give Avatar: The Way of Water a score out of 5, what would you give it?
I'm going to give Avatar: The Way of Water a 4.5. I think that this is really just smashing work. You know, it's really above and beyond great. I just would love to be able to watch it without getting like a slight motion sickness. I'm just throwing that out there. You know, I got a lot of eye strain watching this film, and that's not something that I can go into. I can't binge this movie for 24 hours. I think my eyes would bleed.
I get that. I think I am going to go with a 4.
Okay.
I think that ultimately, fundamentally, as impressive as the film is, I am gonna ding him hard for things like Winslet.
I think that's totally fair, honestly, you know?
Especially because I think that it does muddy some of your objective here. It makes you seem a little tone deaf.
No, yeah, and also...
And even though I understand that the story is good at its heart, I still think that there are some ideas that need some ironing out, and I don't think that he's necessarily... Reach out to someone. You know, like, reach out to anybody. Reach out to Guillermo del Toro, you know, and just get a little bit of a better sense.
Because this isn't Cate Blanchett playing, oh gosh, I don't remember the name of the monkey in Pinocchio.
In Pinocchio? Yeah. No, that's not this.
Yeah, no, because also, like,
It's a monkey.
It was a monkey.
It's a monkey.
It's a monkey that lives in Italy. We don't know the story of this monkey. It could be a Russian monkey for all we know.
Yeah, it's a monkey. You know, it is one of those things that, like, you should know better. And also, I think that, I think that I also still,
especially now in 2022. Like,
yeah,
get it together.
And I will say, even though the movie breezed, and I'm not sure, I guess, where I would say that you could cut it down, that runtime is hard.
No, I do think it is a
I could
fight.
lose maybe a scene somewhere. I'm certain that there's, like, maybe a military scene or something that I could lose.
I mean, honestly, no offense to Chiquitita with her fun, like, walking machine and her coffee mug bit and all of that. Like, we could have gotten rid of that whole character. What did she do after that point?
Yeah, I mean, the new general, unless she's really going to play into things interestingly moving forward, the new general could have just been resurrected Quaritch.
Yeah. We started where we left off, and it's been Giovanni the whole time running the shtick while he's been gone.
Yeah, and he gets rebirthed, you know,
forever how long it takes the rebirthing process to take. You know, maybe it takes 6 years.
Yeah.
On top of the 6 years of the travel.
And
you know?
So I think that you could definitely go and do something like that. So to your point, I think that, like, there are definitely some ways that we still could have probably trimmed some fat, and I think that that's probably where I'll give it the 4.
Yeah, I think that is all fair notes.
But other than that, it is still one of the best things that you can go and watch this year. Literally.
No, it's
absolutely.
It is.
Like,
it is a roller coaster ride. It is
a
great time. We watched it with my folks, and we all walked away and were like, "Wow, that was a great film."
And the 4 is me, I guess, coming to it. You know, also I'll say this. You know, this isn't me giving a... Because grading of films, I guess, for me is such a nebulous thing, right? To a degree. This isn't me giving a 4 to a solid mid-budget horror movie, you know, or a 4 to... This is me grading it on the sense of, you're the guy that made the first Avatar, you're the guy that made Titanic, you're the guy that made Aliens. I'm grading it on this kind of spectrum. This is a James Cameron 4. You know, so, like, for everyone else, this is a 5.
Yeah, and, like, you know better.
Yeah.
You're an adult in the room of filmmaking, and you know better.
Exactly. And so this isn't, you know, your House 5. This is a House 4. This is a James Cameron 4.
Yeah.
No, which is that. Everyone else's 10 on a 5 scale. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, if if Mark Webb, of Amazing Spider-Man and 500 Days of Summer fame, had been the one to direct Avatar: The Way of Water, and this is what he did, I'd be astounded. I'd be blown away that he could,
honestly,
master, the same degree of Cameron. Mm-hmm. But for Cameron, this is a 4. For me.
Yeah.
I think.
Sometimes you have to grade the student on their work, I guess
in accordance with the student.
Yeah, with their skill level in mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, I understand where you're at, and I think that's all, very valid stuff that you said, because it is something that we have to keep in mind in this new media landscape that we're in. Is making a conscious effort to not just do something because you want to, but to go through all of the ethical, checkpoints as well to make sure that it still lines up with
the values that you're also putting on screen.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same essentially fundamental issue with Disney being like, this is a gay character, and they're like a throwaway 5-line character.
Or they, don't do anything until, the very back of a scene that is 2 seconds long. Thank goodness you did that, Disney. We wouldn't possibly feel that representation any other way,
No, absolutely. And I think that it's ultimately kind of the same fundamental issue.
Well, it's kind of like your mom talking about the raises.
Yeah.
What is 18 cents? An
what
hour.
Is it? Yeah.
It's like you didn't do anything, and I'd rather you didn't at this point. You might as well have not.
No, absolutely. But other than that, I did truly love the movie, and this is truly one of the best things that you can and should go and see on the big screen. It is worth it. I really mean that.
Yeah, because it's also a great time.
It's an incredible experience.
It's beautiful. Couldn't recommend it enough.
It is one of the most potently cinematic moments that you can ever go and see. There are multiple moments, that are fundamentally, especially if you love a theater experience, especially, large format things like IMAX and so forth. There are certain things on here that are as potently, a pseudo-religious experience as some of the shots of the first Avatar.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. There are people out there that genuinely think this stuff is real.
There are, shots in this movie that are as dramatically impactful as seeing the T-Rex break out of the cables in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And so I think that, it is 100% worth the big screen experience. And I think that ultimately, James Cameron is probably right in that one of two things are the way forward in the foreseeable future. Either 3D or high frame rate. And it's one of those two, and you shouldn't bet against Cameron because he typically wins in the end.
Well, yeah. I just think he, gets a little overzealous. And
goes,
yeah. I've got a lot of toys. What if I use them all at once?
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. And I'll never disagree with that. Moving on, I wanted to just sort of discuss some new trailers that have dropped. Mm-hmm. The Barbie trailer dropped. The Oppenheimer trailer dropped. Some quick reactions on those from you. Also, Scream 6.
Yes, we did watch the Scream 6 trailer.
So what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I'm so pumped for the Barbie movie. I don't care what's going to happen at this point.
Are you really?
Oh yeah.
I honestly weren't sure if it was. I wasn't sure if it was going to be. I weren't sure. I'm an idiot. I wasn't sure. Moron. I wasn't sure if it was going to be your bag.
Oh no, it looks ridiculous. I'm so here for it. If anything, it can do, I guess, is disappoint. No, I'm kidding. I am looking really forward to it. I like the quirkiness of the trailer being a spoof on 2001: A Space Odyssey. I think it's funny. It's all a part of the joke, and I'm totally here for it. I'm enjoying myself.
Oppenheimer.
I think that I'm interested in watching Oppenheimer. Definitely not for the same reasons that I'm interested in watching the Barbie film. It's not something that I'm really familiar with the history of, so I'm curious on a historical level to even just get some dramatized, fictionalized history thrown at myself. But also, like, I think that it looks really interesting. It's got a good cast of characters as well. Emily Blunt is in it, and I didn't know that until the trailer. So
it's an enormous cast. A lot of people wanted to be a part of Oppenheimer.
Well, I mean, it's a Chris Nolan thing, so, you know, it makes sense.
I think this is his first movie out of his Warner contract.
Oh.
I think.
Well, it looks like they put money into this thing.
Well, I don't know the exact details, but he has gone to extreme lengths for the recreation of his nuclear explosion.
Really?
Yeah, extreme lengths.
Wow.
He is one of a kind. He is a madman. He is a little bit of a Kubrick of our time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, demanding to the highest order.
Mm-hmm.
Extreme in every sense. Articulate in cinematic knowledge. Sometimes more interested in a theme than in character work.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's fair. I think that's totally fair.
And willing to do anything for whatever he thinks is an interesting puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And interested in the actual spectacle of filmmaking. Like, that is truly what he loves.
No, I think that's all fair. Honestly, Oppenheimer looks like it's going to be right up your dad's alley kind of movie.
I actually am not sure that it will be.
Oh, well, it looks like it's right up my dad's alley kind of movie.
I think that it's also... I think that your dad will like it in terms of its history, but I'm not sure that it's one that your dad will return to a lot.
No, but if it's about history, he's got to watch it.
I've got a strange feeling that, and maybe I'm dead wrong about this, that this movie will have a strange kinship to something more like Amadeus.
Oh, well, I love that movie.
Mozart. Or than Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, I mean, I did not think that this thing was going to be at all like Saving Private
No.
Ryan.
But
I thought that this was going to be more like, I guess not in the sense of like the action point of it, but I guess I was thinking it was going to be like all of the slow points of like 1917. You know, very serious. You know, we're not playing any games here. Like, all the stakes are real, but like maybe less, you know, running across a beach, you know.
Yeah.
As gunfire rushes past you.
I'm actually wondering if the world is going to go black and white after the nuclear explosion. Because Robert Downey stuff is in black and white. Mm-hmm. But, like, some of the movie was in color.
I'm curious about this film a lot. I really enjoy Christopher Nolan as a director. I enjoy looking at his movies that he's put out. You know, the Dark Knight franchise is classic. You know, we grew up watching those films.
Prestige, incredible.
Yeah.
You haven't seen that one, but it's a remarkable movie.
No, honestly, and like, you know, it's definitely a name that when you say it forms a picture, you know, in my mind. There are some directors that are just a name, but like he's got some movies tagged onto his list in my, you know, he's got bullets. It's nice. What's our last trailer?
Scream 6.
Oh, I think I'm looking more forward to this one than I was the last one.
Okay.
I like the fact that we've completely changed locations, it looks like, you know, because the whole trailer is them on a subway.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm super pumped about this idea of and it looked like it was like almost like multiple Scream, it's Ghostface. So I loved the idea of this kind of almost like overpowering force of this huge city, and like everywhere they turn is like another Ghostface, you know, this kind of like mob cult mentality, like, you know, making it huge almost. And like maybe I'm totally just reading into it, but We got a lot of survivors, and in classic Scream fashion, if this is going to be the second one in our new version of this,
we need to increase the body count.
We need to increase the body count, and we need to, we're going to have to kill off one of those twins at least, because the uncle died in the second one.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting one of them to die. I'm thinking it's the boy.
Maybe both of them.
Well, maybe both, but I think that the lesbian is a more fun, interesting character, and I hope that she survives. But that's just me putting in things into the film that aren't there. But yeah, no, I'm honestly looking forward to it. I love Jenna Ortega. She's doing a great job.
Make a murder and make it double.
No, that's right. And honestly, like, the last one was pretty, like, legacy centric, and I'm hoping that this one is not going to do that.
Well, we do have Kirby.
Oh, yeah, but Kirby was awesome.
Yeah, Kirby is one of the best things from Scream 4. Actually, Kirby is truly the best thing from Scream 4, and I don't think that Scream 4 is the worst of the Scream franchise, but the best thing of Scream 4 is Kirby.
Yes. Which one was Scream 4? Is that the one with,
That's the one with, the niece, played by...
Roberts.
Roberts.
Emma Roberts.
Yes.
Well, that's the reason why that one doesn't work.
And
because she's terrible.
Kieran Culkin.
Well, Kieran is fantastic.
Or is that Rory?
Oh gosh.
That might be Rory.
It might be, because Kieran is fantastic.
I like all the Culkins.
Well, I like all the Culkins too. But, you know what I don't like is Emma Roberts.
Fair enough. But no, I'm very much looking forward to Scream 6. Interestingly, there aren't a lot of slashers that take place in big cities. You know, even Jason Takes Manhattan is really on a boat.
Yeah, it was not even, he, like, runs in alleys and stuff. It could have been anywhere. It's because it was a set.
And then you go and you look and you've got, like, Candyman, where the first one takes place in the city, but they keep it kind of refined to the projects, this sort of isolated part of the city, you know? And so it's really interesting to see someone go and take full advantage of the idea that it's in a city. And actually, Carpenter's original idea for Halloween 2 was that it would follow Laurie living in a high-rise apartment in Chicago. She left Haddonfield, moved to Chicago. Mm-hmm. And that was the original idea for his Halloween 2.
And then we got the most empty hospital that ever existed in the history of the world.
Don't worry about it. So, it's a really interesting concept, and I really like it. You know, I think it harkens back to, like we discussed with your parents when we were on our trip. It harkens back to the idea, I think, of, like, Scream 2, where, you know, Jada Pinkett gets stabbed in the beginning of the movie in a movie theater, in a crowded space. In the pandemonium, you know, the chaos.
I think that would be interesting of doing this all in the subways.
Yeah.
You know, having this be their, like, escape route from the ghost face, but he's always right there near him still, because also all trains intersect, pretty much. Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there's a lot that is really, really interesting there, and I'm really looking forward to that. And that's pretty much actually all that I have for y'all. The last little bit of news, of course, is that Henry Cavill is officially out as Superman, and James Gunn is now writing a new Superman movie. And with that, there are reports that both Gal Gadot, because Wonder Woman 3 is over.
Yeah.
And so there are now reports that Wonder Woman and Superman's cameos in The Flash are both being cut. Honestly, you know, you want to talk about a movie that if they should try and bank on the insurance for.
No, honestly, like, I just don't understand. Like, I feel like Ezra must have something in their contract that just says that, like, nope, we can't possibly just bury this
Honestly,
movie.
it may even be Keaton.
Oh.
You already cut my other movie. You're not cutting my other movie.
Oh, no. Keaton, let it die.
Hey, man, it's a paycheck thing.
No, I get that. I get that.
And I'm sure that they don't want to pay out whatever it is that they have to pay him out if they do.
Well,
because there's no way that he's going to let 2 movies that he shot get canned.
That's fair.
And I understand that even as an actor. I shot 2 movies and you're canning both of them?
Mm-hmm.
I can understand and respect that.
No, yeah. But
that movie it's a cursed film.
It's gonna be 5 minutes long at this rate. They're gonna go, "Hi, I'm the Flash." He's gonna zip around a little bit and he's going.
And it's over.
Yeah.
Speed Force! And then it's done.
And it saved the day. They're gonna recast all of the cameos with Ezra in those costumes, you know, so it's gonna be Ezra dressed up as Wonder Woman, and then also dressed up as Batman. You know, it's really gonna be a good time. We're gonna lean into the fact that it's a farce at this point.
No, for sure.
I think I fixed the movie, honestly, for them.
You did.
But instead of it being Ezra, we now just make it Timothée Chalamet.
That's right.
And then we actually fix the film.
And no one will notice.
Exactly, and we're done here. Because unlike Ezra Miller, Timothy hasn't done anything wrong or weird in the last few years. So good for you, Timothy, for being normal.
Gold star. I guess that's honestly the last thing that I had in mind. The year is wrapping up. Dear listener, if you would like, you can email us and tell us your favorite Christmas movie, or you can tell us your favorite film of the year. We're going to try and get Henry on sometime before the year is out. Dear, do you have anything that you would like to say to the listeners?
Stay safe out there. You know, with the sicknesses all around and whatnot. Stay safe. Use facial protection, you know, yada yada, the birds and the bees. Yeah, you know, nothing worse than going to grandma's for Christmas and getting COVID. So
and giving it to grandma and killing grandma.
Oh my gosh, yeah, this is the plot of the real COVID movie. Written by James Cameron. No, I'm kidding. But no, yeah. Stay safe out there. I know it's easy to forget, you know, and lean back into how things used to be, because it is so comforting and so normal feeling. And
Grandma got fucked over by COVID.
That's right. But we all want to keep each other safe. So, because you would want somebody to minimum do that for you. You know, so let's have each other's backs out there. And yeah, email us, you know, anything. It keeps us in business, you know. Email me what you had for lunch today. I don't care.
Please do not. I don't want to read it.
Oh, hey, I'll just know that you can send an email, and then therefore I will ask of more of you. But first we got to start with baby steps.
But that's pretty much all that we have for you guys today. Thank you guys, of course, for listening. Thank you guys for understanding that it's a little bit of a late post for us. And get ready for this coming episode where we're doing a double up for y'all of White Noise and Glass Onion. So keep an eye out for that. Stay safe out there, like my dear wife said. Enjoy the holiday season. Merry Christmas to those, you know, who are celebrating. Happy Hanukkah. Hanukkah, you know, is officially underway. And enjoy the season. Enjoy each other. And you know, the togetherness. And happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
We'll catch you guys next week. Bye.